Hello again. In today's tutorial, Ian and I are going to be looking at how he can become self-generative of his own material. It's always worried me that teachers feel they're not clever at inventing material to use in their classrooms where a drama mode might be part of the means of study. And there's this tendency to say, where do you find the stories? I never find the stories. You seem to have a lot of stories that you know.
Yeah.
Well, it isn't anything to do with that, really. And stories aren't, in fact, a very direct, useful medium of drama work, because, you see, they're in a literary convention, and drama is in an episodic convention, you see. In literature, you can say, meanwhile, and it's so efficient. But meanwhile, in drama, is a very, very long process of stop doing this and do this, but remember this is happening meanwhile. It's very complicated. So I'm going to introduce Ian, first of all, to what I call the Brotherhoods code. For a long time, I used to wonder how it was that I could invent so fast when children gave me ideas for drama. And then I realised that I had a system that was largely unconscious at that time, whereby I could span all times and all social stratas and sort of all ages of people and all kinds of activities. So, I'll try one on you. If I put my spectacles on, if I use the Brotherhoods code, I am now of the brotherhood of all those who have second sight. Well, you see what it's done? I've said these are not just magnifiers, they function as two lots of eyes. So, how many people have second sight? You see? There are those with guide dogs. Right? There are all those who can prophesy, those who foretell the future, gypsies with crystal balls. Do you see what I mean? Now, do you get any if I stay quiet? Second sight.
People who use telescopes, maybe?
Telescopes, the camera, the second sight, the lens that is more than the normal, you see. Now, what you've done is you haven't taken everything to do with spectacles. You've taken one feature, which is the dimension of vision is extended. However, if you want another one, it might be all those who can hide behind you see, a mask. So these don't look much like a mask, but you watch some people who do actually turn their eyes off when they put their specs on. They're a very good disguise. And how many spies have been known to wear glasses, you know? I mean, people do, don't they? It's one of the quick ways of disguising. So it is now used as a mask, you see. But then you've the brotherhood of all those who would hide their faces is what that is. Now, what about the Elephant Man? You see how very quickly it gives you these roots into people who do not wish to be recognised, who have purposes, catatonic people, people who wear masks as the Tuareg people do. The men wear the mask, the cloth over the face. What about yashmaks? You see, you straight away, you're all over the world, you're all through time. The man in the iron mask, and so on. So it is not cleverness, really. It's a system, you see.
Yes, it sort of unleashes a whole lot of
That's right.
ideas.
It puts you in touch with all the things you know, but you've forgotten to remember you know, because how could you keep them all at the front of your mind, you see? Now that expands your capacity enormously for finding material. Because, you see, the word brotherhood is, I belong to the human race.
Mm.
In fact, I've just thought of one where I don't belong to the human race. If I am of the brotherhood of all those who must cover their faces, I could be a dog with a muzzle.
Mm.
You see, I could be a surgeon with a mask. You see, already
Yes, there's more.
it's more and more and more. And I've given you a whole series of exercises in these tutorials, and I do recommend that you keep turning them over and trying them. It isn't that I say, oh, I can do it, I never bother. I do that a lot because it excites me. I find it very intriguing to stand at a bus stop or get in a car and say, I am of the brotherhood of all those who wear carapaces. You know, so me and the turtles have a lot in common, you know, but me and Roman soldiers in armour have.
Yes.
But again, you see, you've taken one aspect of the car.
Yes.
Now, can you think of any other aspects of car? I mean, you drive every day.
Yes. Yes. Well, I suppose it's the aspect of change.
Now, say it as I am of the brotherhood of all those who.
All right. I'm of the brotherhood of all those who change position or move from one place to another.
Who travel.
Who travel.
I am of the brotherhood of all travellers. Now, that's quite different from the car as a carapace.
Yes.
So I don't understand maths, but you've squared it about 87 times.
Mm.
If I am of the brotherhood of all those who can unleash power. So I've got my whatever you call the key. I've forgotten the ignition key. You put the ignition key in and unleash power. What of people who cause storms to rise? The gods, you know, unleash power. People who let guard dogs off.
Mm.
And, you know, I mean, it just never ends. Sometimes I say, go on, Dorothy, get this one to the bitter end, you know,
Yes.
and I might get about 15 images.
Yes.
And can you, I mean, I don't know what you're seeing in your mind, but I'm actually seeing the carapace. I actually physically understand. It completely metallically surrounds me. When I unleash power, the power I know here. Mm-hmm. You see? Mm-hmm. Now, are you doing that?
No, I find that very difficult to do. Yeah.
Yes. Well, that's your next stage, really, to force the image. Let's try another one. We, at this moment, are of the brotherhood of all those upon whom light has descended. We are enlightened people. Now, you see, I see images of monks in yellow robes and the enlightened, you know, the gurus. Yeah. I actually see them. Actually, you know, I actually experience it in a funny way in my body. Now, I reckon that vivid imagination, which actually goes through the complete muscle system, which is presumably what actors understand.
Yes.
But anybody who empathises must do it. If you've got empathy, there must be some sensation. You may not register it. So I have this belief, and I could be wrong, of course, we all could be, that you can make it possible to happen to you. Now, you know, we did a very early exercise on reading a piece of text and making yourself see.
Yes, yes, I remember.
It's very important to the instantaneity of it, you know, the sudden instantaneity of it. Yeah. When somebody says, can we do a play about guard dogs, of the brotherhood of all those who, and you'll go straight into Rome. I suddenly, you see, then was in the middle of lions fighting Christians and Christian fighting lions, I suppose it should be, because it's to do with the guarding of these beasts somehow. Yes. And so it probably isn't a very direct image, that, but that's where I was.
Yeah, so I could throw anything up and you'll be able to...
Yes, yes, I think so. I'm not saying I would do them all as well as I could,
Yeah.
because some obviously summon more immediate images. Now, of course, I tend to summon morbid images because I'm a divergent thinker, and Liam Hudson found when he was looking at divergent thinkers, they frequently do have morbid images. So I have to counterpoise mine and counteract them with, okay, recognise it's a morbid image and immediately give it, not get rid of the morbid image, but do a balance image.
Yes.
You see.
Yeah.
A dog attacking is immediately, has to be countermanded, as you might say, by man defended against dog, and so on, you see. Now, you've got the message. I can't do it anymore. The rest is repetition.
Yes.
That you keep on saying, right, whatever I am doing,
Writing.
I am of the brotherhood of all those who. And when you've got one, you don't say, oh, I've done pens. You say, what other aspects of pens are there? And, you know, there might be 3 or 4 that we won't go into now, but they will be there. You see, I'm the brotherhood of all those who leave their mark, is one. At this moment, I can't think of another, but there'll be others, because you can make yourself. I do think we can help ourselves a great deal quietly and train ourselves without having to go on courses, quite honestly.
I think it's very, I mean, I think the interesting with, say, with the pen is moving to the position of leaving your mark from communicating or,
Yes,
you know,
that's right.
shedding information.
Yes, yes,
That's
yes.
that
yes,
step that's difficult for me.
The one you've made me have another one on pen, you see. All those who can leave part of themselves behind because my words now exist without me. Now, you're into Egyptian mummies straight off. They've left part of themselves behind. Skeletons. What about the business of, I don't know what sect they are, who must keep all their finger pairings, their nail pairings, and their hair cuttings, who must leave part of them, because they've got to have them for the journey into the unknown, you see. Now, you can do it once I stop nattering at you. And how much you're prepared to do it depends on how much control you have and how much you care about your profession. It's as simple as that. On that note, we will move to the second thing I want to do about material. Now, here we have, I wanted to prepare you some material that could try and demonstrate to you that no matter what ideas you get for drama, you can make them work with any age range and any ability range, because it's in the flexibility of your approach to the invention of the levels at which you might use this material. So I've invented for you a whole world, a landscape, and I've invented, in this case, an Italian villa. I've chosen an Italian villa because it's foreign, and it might introduce us to a bit of language, and it will be sufficiently distant in some ways to widen our art experience. I know you can have Italian paintings in English galleries, of course, and so on, but the whole sense of vineyards, farms, slightly different, a new lens from which a big estate could be examined. Now, I want to show you how I might use this as for any age from 5 up to 18, you see. So we've got our first layer. If somebody has a big estate, and we won't worry yet about how we'll start it. Somebody has this big estate. You can see he's got a map of it, so it must exist, you know.
Yes.
And the children are only 5. One of the things we could do is help him clean it up, because nobody's been dusting it for years and years and years, and he's got past it himself, or somebody has, you know. And so dusting and tidying and maybe helping him find his pension book, because he's got to have a certain slowness that allows the children to be cleverer, you see.
Yeah.
So however we begin it, it's a needing person who wants everything cleaned up and tidied and to feel like home. And the deep question is, you know, what is home to a pensioner? So you can get it as deep as you like. Everything will go deep.
Yeah.
We might start by washing his dirty breakfast dishes, but we'll end up knowing his pension book is a symbol of his life now. Do you see what I mean? You'll always drop. Now, your second layer, you see, might well be just related with this a bit, but finding things that are lost that remind him of things. So while we're busy cleaning up at an older age, the extra pressure is he needs to find things, but he can't quite remember all the places where they might be. And some of these things could be memories, a photograph album, or some letters.
Right.
So that though we're cleaning up, we're dusting and tidying and fetching and carrying, basically we're a searching unit because it matters. Because until he gets these, he doesn't feel complete. Now you see, that's different than a pension book. A pension book is power. But photographs of your family, trying to remember all your great-grandchildren's names, because there's such a lot of them now. Trying to find where they all live now, an address book, is a symbol. It's more than itself. It's a tracing,
Right,
you see.
Mm.
Now, the third level, this villa with all its possibilities in the estate, because you can take any aspect of the villa. You know, you might work in the small temple cleaning that up, or you might work in the observatory cleaning that up, or you might, you know, deal with his workers' cottages so that they're got ready for people to come and live there now again, and so on. The third level would be, not only do we handle all the objects, as you might say, and we've to find a way to have the objects yet, it might be to classify them. Now, you take a smallish child, we're thinking here of possibly a 7 or an 8-year-old. What things go together? You know, should these glasses be amongst all these big heavy milk bottles? Should these delicate wine glasses be amongst the big tin dishes? And so on. So classifying, creating an inventory. Now you see, at one level you're just sorting and saying those wine glasses are going to get broken if they're all dumped in the bottom of that big wooden barrel. You shouldn't really put them there with them cannonballs or whatever. But you see, when you start to classify at the next layers down, it's to do with the purpose of wine glasses, the purpose of cannonballs. I mean, you know, he might have a cannon lying around here. I haven't put one in. And so on. So you're always into these deeper layers. You remember, I do this because my motive is I have an investment in doing this. And my models are, all my life before this has guided me as to why cannonballs and wine glasses don't really fit in the same cupboard. Finally, because this is how life should be for such as you. You realise I'm personifying the owner each time here for the younger children. Now you see, the next layer up could be arranging all the rooms in the villa, all these places, around themes. So you see, if you take, let's take a withdrawing room. Who might you find if you opened this as a National Trust house? Who might the visitors find when they went in? And what might they see going on in this theme room? This is the butler's pantry theme room. This is the dairy theme room. So the children, in this case, you see, would be actually personifying the work or the leisure or the social life.
Yes.
You know, what is a theme room about a vineyard? Is it where the wine is pressed? You know, where is it? Is it where the bottles are stored? And so on. Or is it the whole of the process of winemaking, from the vine growing through to the labelling, bottling and selling? There is your theme room. Now that, you see, advances very much into the curriculum. The observatory as a theme room. Because the people then can, by a convention, and you see this in houses now where people are dressed in period and may move. The National Trust is doing this a great deal. Now the next layer is getting a little more complex, because now we're looking at how do you help your family if you have this great big family of workers and household. So you've gone from pension books and me now to this vast community. How do you help them share work appropriately? What's fair around here? Now you see, I'm talking here of your 9-year-olds looking at maybe a work study of the work that goes on and trying to sort out, rather as Red Adair does the oil fires, sort out with a time and motion study, you know, what is really happening here. The archivist may seem to have a nice, clean, tidy job around here, whereas the vineyard worker comes home sometimes absolutely covered in bugs. Can we say that there is any fairness about what this person does and that person does? So time and motion studies, analysis of jobs, which would be marvellous for children to do time and motion studies on their own curriculum work, you see. And this will include, obviously, the social strata in such a villa, which allows the children to consider what the advantages and disadvantages are of rank and power, and how the power can shift according to the high skills that people have. Because without those skills of vineyard workers, he's not going to get decent wine to entertain his visitors or to send to the Pope. So that we're not talking about, let's deal with status, we're dealing with stature, which could be quite useful in England, where we look at stature, not status and rank. The next one, you see, is even more, what we could call more psychological. At the next level, I might be considering, can the people on this estate learn to be responsible for their actions and consider and foreshadow the outcomes? If we do this today, what will be tomorrow's result? If we do something about that water there, what will happen to the carp? If we take all the weed away, will it be for good or will it be for ill? If we destroy this telescope through neglect, what have we lost of understanding the life that this community has had in the past? What contribution can we make by reinstating this as a training place for young astronomers? What will be the outcomes for every action we do? If we put the rents upon our workers' cottages, what will be the outcomes? So you'd be functioning at a totally different level here. You see, at the 5-year-old level, dusting and cleaning, your outcome will be sheerly practical. If you're not careful, it might break. If you're not careful, we might break. Is the
You're shifting more into a sort of managerial role, in a sense.
Yes. And all you're doing is saying, this villa allows me to have all these brotherhoods, really. You know, it's quite a different use of the word there. Now, the next one, you see, could be very much a teenage thing. This looks like there's a great load of space got all these vast places that haven't yet been filled by anything that the children would put their mark on. Sharing space and nurturing bondings. Now, this isn't necessarily to do with who's going to have which bedroom, though it can start at that level. But have I space in my life for you? Can we give space to this illegitimate child? Look, yesterday's news, all those Italian people who were prepared to take those 28 children who run away from home, and they were actually going and collecting them. There was a man with 4 children making space for a 5th yesterday, and weeping if he couldn't have the lad, and worrying that he couldn't send the lad back to his real parents. And there's an example of making space. Can we make space for some handicapped people in our villa and give them stature? Can we make space for rearing certain rare fish that may otherwise be lost? You know, can we make space? And you can take it at any level you like. It can be at the level of quarrelling people over who gets this extra bathroom, or the wider ecological situation. You can pitch it precisely where you want it for the curriculum. You see, have we a right to keep hold of all this land? Can we make space for some gypsies?
Yes.
Some travellers, and so on. And then, you see, my next level, and we're thinking now, you know, you're 16, possibly, dealing with loss. I'm going to have to give this up. I'm not going to be able to have this like I've always had it before. Now, at one level, loss can be objects. I've lost something I really valued because you threw it away. Well, I didn't know it was your teddy bear. I know. But you're too old for teddy. I don't care. It was mine. Putting it at its, you know, sobbingest, as you might say. Who's worn my tights? You know, Cinderella again, those 2 sisters, you know. And the next layer on is dealing with loss of persons. But I thought he loved me. If you take the letters of Abelard and Eloise, they each lost the other through years and years and years of writing letters to each other. And slowly they came to realise they could deal with it. And so you can find, you see, drama always gives you a very high focus. There's a very precise beam of light shed on an aspect of humanity. It is always sociology, or anthropology, or psychology. How we get on as groups, how we are as people with each other, the psychology, and the anthropology, the needs of humans. It's always going to be one or a blend of these. And yet we discount it in our schools because we see it as something you can't measure. But when placed alongside the curriculum, you can actually measure how the learning of curriculum learning, not just life learning, which it will always have in it, but the curriculum studies can be placed within it. Because curriculum studies need a context, and they are not given a context. They are usually in the context of you're a student, you've come to learn.
Yes,
so you don't get that high focus and that beam of light. And then the last one I've indicated again, because I've thought of your 18-year-old, just going on to university or going out to work at 16, whatever it might be, facing change. If some member of the family, if we put it at its most wealthy, you know, you've got your driving licence and you've got a car, and we're not sure what to say to you. If we start telling you it's lethal, and you could be lethal, you'll think we preach. So we give it willingly with terror. You're on the brink. That at one level is you know, facing change through an object. But what about the person standing at the gate with a suitcase who's gone off quietly? There's no car going to take them down, unlock the gate. They're going to have to get the porter at the lodge to unlock it. And there'll be nobody waiting, possibly. Or there will be somebody waiting, possibly. But this, for me, is no longer what I want. On the other hand, there's somebody knocking at the gate. I've come for an interview. You're looking for a vineyard manager. You're looking for a nursemaid for the latest grandchild. Facing change. Facing change that the elders have died. You know, could be a tragic death, suddenly in a motor car accident or a heart attack. But the point of shift, the brotherhood of all those who will leave behind, and so on. Now, you can do that with any kind of material. I've given you a map because, you see, I wanted to make the most general entry into curriculum possibilities. You see, if you're interested in helping children understand how to do family trees, and this realisation that generation by generation may discount the generation that's just gone before, then you might need a very strong historical aspect. So you might work as archivists, tracing where all these families fit through the last 300 years, because you've got this jumble of a box, and the only clues you have are the nature of the documents, the nature of the parchment, the nature of the inks, but it will sort out in the process of action, because drama is always action. It's the praxis of being alive in a circumstance. And knowing you're doing it yourself, you know, you're not kidding on, you know it's drama. It actually creates the processes by which people can recognise the generations and can actually realise there's only a certain few generations in about 400 years. You know, you can actually span a lot of years in a very few generations if people have lived a long time. So it will take you right into the curriculum. Want soil science? It's in those few words up there. To the farm and vineyards. It's in these trees here, if you want it. Do you want to look at space? Do you want to consider early ways of looking at the sky and how far we've come?
Yeah.
Well, it's there because I've put an observatory. Do you want to look at the lives of workers through time? You've got it because you've got some workers' cottages.
And you presumably have the choice about whether you focus on one little area of this whole map with everyone, or different groups focus on different bits.
Now, I made the map for you, really, so that I gave you a very, very large territorial potential. You don't have to make all that map for your children. You see, for these children who might come and dust and tidy, he might send them a picture of one of his big cupboards. Mind, it would be a big cupboard because I might have 30 little dusters and polishers. So you see, he just might have sent a picture of his cupboards.
Right.
Now you see, I also prepared, in preparing you the territorial map, and as you can see, everything marked on that map belongs here, in that it is a landscape which inducts the presence of humans. It's asking for the presence of humans. You see, small temples aren't put there except so that people can walk to them. At that level, it's a bit of a break from being indoors in the 17th century. But it's a trysting place. It's a place of secret hatchings of pots. It's a place from which people can look at the lake and consider their problems. It inducts the presence of humans. I mean, you could fish on the quiet. You could play, you could tickle trout.
Yeah.
Any age can visit a small temple. It can be a place where murders take place. There's my morbid imagination again, you see. All of them induct the presence of humans, and all of them induct the presence of work, because small temples are often inviting repairs, decorations, tessellated pavements, changes of decorations and so on. You can do a small temple up at the drop of a hat if you choose to, you see.
Right, yeah.
So for some classes you might need the whole map. You would choose and you'd make it the way you want it. It's a sort of infusion of all the world. It's a landscape, it's a micro world, isn't it? A microcosm of all the world. This is why I've put to the village at this side and to the city at this side. You want to consider the way village shops are dying? Well, it's there if you want it. Because, you see, you can have your village and you can put to the villa.
Yes.
Now then. Now, I've also invented another way of inducting people into this. You see, what you're trying to do all the time in drama, if you can, is get away from this notion of the teacher has to say, now, this is what I want you to do.
That's the problem.
So you're trying to back off that. So what you're saying is, I'll use another person to say, this is what I want you to do.
So,
And that introduction is a drama introduction. If I say, will you help me run this villa, I haven't really inducted it dramatically yet. I'll only induct it dramatically if I say, shall we agree that I own this villa? Now I've inducted it dramatically, because everybody knows Dorothy Heathcote does not own that there big Italian villa, because she's our teacher, and she don't have no villas, because we know that. However, this can make the drama straight away. If I read you a letter, I'm saying this, of course, as if you're a class of children, I've had this letter, and you can see I wrote it myself, because it's in my writing, but can we agree that I've had this letter? And if I read it to you, I think you'll know what it is the person who has sent it would like us to do. Now, you listen and see how many things I've laid in that are not negotiable by the children. It starts, the Casa Rosa, Umbria, Italia. Now, that's not negotiable. So there's one example. Dear Sirs, I am writing on behalf of Count Dom Rosalia of the Casa Rosa to engage the services of your experts in a complete refurbishing of the Casa Rosa villa. Have you found any non-negotiables?
well, they want it refurbished.
Yes, that's right. That is the job. And also, there's a very important person who has a name. I'm not him, though, because I'm on behalf of. So there's two people inducted by this letter
Oh, I see, right.
that are not negotiable. Now, this is to include a thorough checking of all fabrics, coverings of chairs, sofas, repairing of all furniture with new French polish where surfaces require it, marbles to be reground where this will not damage either design or colour, all floor surfaces, including wood, marble, carpeted and tapestried surfaces to be cleaned and or repaired, all plaster ceilings and cornices, together with overmantels, to be repaired where necessary. The Count will be pleased to meet your representatives to discuss this matter. Now there's the action. Meet to discuss. And in the meantime, I enclose sketches which may be helpful. The Count's important collection of art and Art Nouveau objects will be in your care at this time. Yours sincerely, Monsieur Cotard, Steward. Now, you see, there's a lot of information. We will expect to find sofas, chairs, marble. There's a great load of vocabulary. Now, you see, that avoids me having to say, now, don't forget to be careful. I don't want to be that kind of teacher. This man, I suppose, he'll show us all these things. I'm going through this agency.
Yes.
Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
Now, that is a given, you see. We've got to put that somewhere. And what's more, it is an invitation to reply,
Yes.
which allows us to debate whether, in fact, we will give a hand. Now, you see, I've written that for probably the junior classes.
Right.
If it were an infant class, well, you write me a letter from an infant, for an infant class. We're talking about dusting and tidying for somebody who can't anymore.
Yes. So we're going to be talking about writing on behalf of who needs some assistance with the running of the villa.
Yes, now then, you've done that in what I call elegant grown-up terms.
Right.
Needs some assistance with the running of the villa. Now, can you put it in a very direct, straight statement to a 6-year-old?
I would like some help.
Yes, yes.
Or,
I think I would use need. And I think I'd refer to
Need
them.
your help.
I've heard you are good at dusting things, and my hands are rheumatic.
Yes.
It's as
Sort of
clear
thing,
as
isn't
that. Oh, poor thing, he's got rheumatic hand. Is it a gentleman or a lady, this? You see. The dusters fall on the floor, and my back hurts if I bend.
Right.
Now, there you see, you're bringing the image of the slightly helpless, but the language is obviously compos mentis, you know, and what's more, it's not tremblingly written. You
Yes.
know. I have asked my secretary to write this letter, but the signature at the bottom, if he has got rheumatic hands, can be a little bit dithery, all of which resonates. I mean, the children will say that. They'll see it straight away. Oh, look at that. It must be his hands. They'll do that. You see what I mean?
Yes.
Now, you could write a letter that pitches precisely into the level and into the curriculum.
And that's the way to start. So if for a starting point with well, any one of those, the letter could get you into it, could it?
Yes, I think because it is in Italy, it needs to be, in this case, I think, a letter. It could be done as an advertisement in a newspaper, and then you'd have to think carefully, where would such an advertisement appear? And it might be a paper that is not necessarily familiar to the children. It might be in the Times, for example. I don't think it would be likely to be in a local job centre, but I can see circumstances where I might find it with some 16-year-olds in a job centre, where we were looking at job descriptions, because they might be thinking about jobs and looking at how job centres work, for example. If that were the case, I would start it from a job centre, but then I'd have to establish the job centre first. And
So-
this would come in as one of many jobs. You know, it might be a common market opportunity to move, to work in Italy. That could well be so.
So you might just choose that as a starting point.
Yes. Now, I had not seen an advertisement until you asked me the question about the letter. Another way to do it, of course, would be to have a letter that has been sent to me, or to you, of course, from somebody who has met somebody who's heard you might know somebody who could help.
Right. Yes.
And so that is more friendly. I'm writing to you because when we, I met a cousin of yours who was on holiday, and they said you knew people who were very good at helping people.
Yes.
Now, you see, that's your younger end.
And you can get less formal language then.
Exactly. Mind, at 17 or 18, it could well be they've been abroad on a tour, and they've been to wherever you go to lie on beaches in Italy, and they've met a young man who would really like to keep in touch with them, and he works here and knows there'd be openings. Now, you see, that's your job centre personalised.
Yes.
It's not come through the count now. It's come through somebody wanting to keep in touch with somebody.
Yeah.
And this could be a way,
Right.
and very honourable.
How far would it go if it started with the children initiating by saying we would like to work here or something, or we hear you've got work or whatever it is? Does it go beyond that to a response from?
Now, a response from whom?
From
here?
the count or from the?
Oh yes, I think. Well, it would depend. If it were a boyfriend writing to say there actually is work here, if you'd be prepared to come. You know, it was so nice knowing you in the summer. It was great. And I have to use my imagination here because I'm not of the generation. I mean, I did dare things, I suppose, when I was their age, but they dare differently somehow, and so, you know, I need to use imagination here. There, I think the count would not come into it, that the young man or the young woman, of course, writing, could well have met. We could have all been on a school tour. You know, I mean, you've got to consider the numbers. There's 27 of us in this class. It's got to feel reasonable. Even by just saying, would you agree it could happen, it could be reasonable, that we'd been on a trip and we'd met lads and lasses who all worked in this place and we wanted to keep in touch with them. That they might write and say, there's definitely summer work in the vineyard, why don't you come through the school holidays? And they would say, yeah, that is reasonable. You know, it is reasonable. Or you could find in a job centre an advertisement saying that workers are needed on a short-term basis, and particularly English people of you know, school age who would be interested to share in the life of an Italian vineyard. Because the people do go abroad and work in vineyards, don't they?
They do.
So you see, there's all that. So I don't think the count in that case would respond, but they'd have to write to some secretary, wouldn't they? Some steward. And of course, the responses would be built by the class. I wouldn't do the responses unless they contracted me to do it. So I might say, do you want to get a letter back? And if they say, well, there'd have to be one, all right. Do you want to write it with me, and then we know what it says before we open it, or do you want me to write it as if I am? Because nobody's kidding on. We know it is made by ourselves, for ourselves. But the world we enter then is worth it.
So you could actually negotiate whether the letter's going to have a big surprise in it or whether it's going to have very little surprise in it.
Yes. In fact, frequently I will say, do you think you people are ready for a bit of a shock? So you see, the children may be quite young, and we've been dusting for quite a while, you know. And I might say, do you think we're ready for a bit of a shock? All right, shall I have a surprise tomorrow? All right. Just before dinner time tomorrow, we'll go into the villa. There's your 10 minutes that you might feel you can do. We'll go into the villa and I'll have a bit of a surprise, right? Do you want this surprise to be a bit dangerous? Or you can negotiate it exactly, you see. And I'm talking there to little ones, obviously. At 9 or 10-year-olds, how dangerous are you prepared for this surprise to be? All right, okay, I'll have a particularly dangerous surprise. Right, I'll have to go away and think about it. Do you want it to be dangerous to your minds or your bodies, you see? Just, okay. So they're actually teaching you what they're prepared to take on.
Yes.
Yes.
And also you're
Yes.
presumably raising the tension for...
Exactly, yes. But I'm not promising what I can't deliver. I don't know what I'll deliver. And a further question, you see, might be something like, do you want the surprise to be permanent, to change you in some way, you know, that you'll never be quite the same again? Because it's our drama. We can do it as we wish. Another question would be, do you want it to be a sort of fantasy or absolutely real surprise? Because in fantasy, you see, I can say, actually, I've just realised whenever I step on this carpet, time shifts. So if they want fantasy, they can have it, or they can have reality. And if time shifts in reality, it's something to do with you feel the presence and you don't feel comfortable. There's something strange, and we're all a bit bad-tempered in here. Or, you know, we all suddenly feel slightly drunk almost, euphoric. And it's not so silly, because you know of people in the 18th century who died because the paint had lethal things in it. I don't know if it was Napoleon's wife, who was always ill in one of the houses because the green paint had arsenic in, and it sort of shed from the painted four-poster bed. Nasty. And that's what I'd call a reality surprise. And so you see, you can plot and you can plan as you go forward.
Yes, that's
So I've given you two keys. The Brotherhood key
Yes, I have to work on that one.
and the all levels. Now the trick on that one then is to say, you don't need villas, of course. You simply say, if this is an event, a community, let's say it is a community. If this is a community, a group large enough for my class, a circus, a family of travellers, a committee, though committees tend to sit about and chatter, and you've got to get out of that. So if you're that type, you know, if you can't get your dramas on their feet, don't do committees. Craftspeople who are raising up some statues, whatever it might be, park keepers and so on. You simply say, how many levels can I get out of this? Because it will always be first I do. Everybody does things in drama. It means I do. I do now. I do this, and everything I do has a motive. I lift them up to put them safe. Because my investment is not losing my second sight till I can get another pair.
Yeah.
My model is, you don't destroy good tools. Because this is how life should be, to conserve that which you value. And those 5 levels will be in everything you do as potential levels to go. You don't have to choose my levels. I gave you mine there. But you see, I might pick up a knife to hide it, because my investment is in stabbing you, is me morbid, when you come in. And my models are, all mafia youth kill once. Because life should be that I am prepared to kill for what we believe in. So it isn't necessarily this holier-than-thou job. It can be this rather nasty area. If you've got a case of bullying in a school, I'm looking innocent, because I don't want the teacher to know I hit Johnny,
Mm.
because I have an investment in being one of the gang.
Mm.
And my models are, if you belong to the gang, you're all right, usually. And keeping yourself popular is how life should be. Okay?
Mm. Yeah.